Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, I have a couple of stories of bizarre white entities, ghostly entities, and alien entities. They're both very intriguing. The first article we'll be reading is Ghostly White Entity at My Window. Childhood encounter in Calaveras County, California. Let's get into this article now and read exactly what terrified this man when he was a child. More than 2 decades later, a California witness still can't shake the memory of a tall, white-furred, black-eyed figure silently staring through their bedroom window. But was their 6-foot-tall presence a ghostly intruder, an alien visitor, or something far stranger that defies explanation? That's quite the opening, folks. Let's get into the actual story now. This account was forwarded to me from another investigator. This happened about 23 years ago, and I still can't forget it. I was around 10 years old at the time. I was not experiencing sleep paralysis, nor was I dreaming. We just stared at each other for what felt like a long time. I pulled my covers up to my nose, and I kept my eyes locked on him. At some point, I must have passed out from exhaustion and shallow breathing, but I'm not sure when. This is the entity that, well, our witness says that he saw. Now, it's just a mock-up and a CGI rendering of it, folks, but this entity, if you saw it outside your window, I imagine would be very terrifying. Now, the thing about this, folks, it looks like both a white Bigfoot and a gray alien, as if both cryptids were fused together. Now, it's been said before that gray aliens have been mistaken for, or basically somehow have basically used owls as a way to basically camouflage themselves, folks. Could be that our witness was looking at an owl and he mistook it for, well, this white-furred entity. Maybe. It's a good idea. We'll talk about it a little more, but let's get back to the article now. To this day, I still struggle to sleep with an uncovered window at night. The darkness reminds me of that ghostly white figure staring at me while I slept, and I become so paranoid that I almost see him there again. Objectively, he didn't do anything malicious, but being watched through my bedroom window at night, especially by a non-human entity, is incredibly creepy. He gave off serious old researcher vibes. I can't provide further details as he didn't attempt to communicate. Based on the height of the window from the ground, I estimate he was at least 6 feet tall. He had a very slender torso and arms and no visible ears. I have no idea if the fur was part of him or if it was like a furry wetsuit. This encounter has never happened again. It occurred in Calaveras County, California in the United States. I reported it to MUFON a little while ago. I've never met anyone who has seen a similar entity, but I would be thrilled to hear from anyone who has a. Well, there have been quite a few encounters with basically a white-furred Bigfoot before, folks. Well, or maybe I should basically be a little more clear. There's been one good account of a white-furred Bigfoot before, folks, but there have been other encounters with Yeti-like entities with white fur. So, was this what this guy saw? Some sort of maybe white Bigfoot? Perhaps an elderly Bigfoot is what I've argued before, folks, that maybe when Bigfoot get very old, they turn white-furred. Perhaps. But it can also be that, as the, well, witness said here, folks, the entity gave him real vibes of being an old researcher, as if this entity was studying him. But why, if it were a gray alien, if it were such an entity, folks, why would it choose the form of a Bigfoot to basically conduct some sort of research? And in most accounts, folks, it seems to me that, well, gray aliens don't care if people actually see them for what they really are. But then again, we're assuming that the gray alien form is what they actually are, folks. Perhaps this entity wanted to test the fear response from this witness, or maybe there was some other reason entirely for its appearance. Either way, we just don't know until we have further information. But let's move on to the next article, folks. Large-eyed albino humanoids, 1975 close encounter that still haunts Kansas experiencers. Let's read this article, folks. And here, yet another encounter with alien beings. But this time, like the last story, folks, they give you a really weird feeling, but with the way they're described. Let's get into the article now, folks. In the spring of 1975, a young Kansas couple encountered a hovering craft and 2 pale, large-eyed humanoids staring down at them from behind a glass-like window. Decades later, the witnesses still returned to the Riverside Bridge, wondering why the beings revealed themselves that night and whether they might return one day. One evening in the spring of 1975, my girlfriend and I were driving through the Kansas countryside after crossing a cement bridge that spanned a river. We pulled into a farmer's access road and parked at the edge of a field alongside a bend in the river, with the car facing east. Not long after we stopped, we noticed a strange light that suddenly approached our location in a quick blur. Suddenly, a dark rectangular object hovered above the trees with one red light and one green light positioned together at the lower center of the craft. We stared in amazement, unable to take our eyes off the object. After about 5 minutes, we noticed that the craft had moved to the right, gliding slowly to the other side of the river. After another 5 minutes, I decided to drive away from the area. As we turned onto the country road and subsequently onto the cement bridge, we saw that the craft had returned to its original position, hovering above us and slightly to the back of the bridge. I stopped again and got out to look at the craft. I imagine that a lot of people would do that, folks. In fact, maybe I myself. Now, folks, most of the time when I'm basically reading these articles to you folks, I think about this question. Would I stick around and possibly allow myself, to be in a position for abduction? Now, I know what I would really do, folks, if I saw one of these, ships. I'd probably watch it for a second, but then decide there's a good chance that I could be abducted if, I hadn't already been, folks. I would probably get in my car and drive away as fast as I could back home, and then I would check the time if I basically lost any time at all, trying to estimate how long I'd been out. That is what I would do, folks. But the idea of basically meeting alien beings, it does appeal to me. But let's move on and we can talk about this a little more later. The object was about 20 to 25 feet wide, and I noticed a large rectangular glass window, or what appeared to be glass, running across the middle third of its front. Standing inside to the left side and looking down on us were two beings that I could see only from the waist up. They appeared to be about 4 feet tall, with abnormally large heads and large black eyes. Their eyes seemed devoid of emotion, and their skin was pure white, resembling that of an albino salamander. The alignment of their eyes ran almost north-south from their heads. The craft hovered silently the whole time. After about a minute of eye contact with the humanoids, I got back into the car and quickly drove away from the area. We could still see the craft hovering where we had left it. My girlfriend and I eventually married and still live very near the location where we witnessed the craft. Sometimes we both feel an urge to return to the spot and sit there, talking about our shared experience, hoping those beings would stop by. JJ. Now, is it possible that JJ and his wife, they feel compelled to return there because maybe these alien beings left some sort of mental imprint on them, telling them that one day, maybe sometime in the future, they will return? Or maybe, folks, these alien beings do visit JJ and his wife, but JJ and his wife don't remember because maybe they are the victims of some sort of alien abductions, and these beings erase their presence in their lives. Completely erase their presence every time these two people are abducted to their ship, perhaps. That's an idea. Now, like in the last encounter, folks, with the witness when he was a kid, these two beings give you real vibes of being some sort of, researchers. Some sort of scientists that were observing these two, people down in their car. Just like the witness who was in his bed when he was a child. Now, what do these beings want? Are they actual alien beings? And is their form really what we're actually perceiving? Remember, the man, when he was a boy, said he saw this white, furry, Bigfoot-like creature with the big black eyes. That sounds like this entity was either taking the form of a Bigfoot-like creature for whatever reason, or maybe this is their actual true form. For all we know, folks, gray aliens don't exist. They take this form mentally, projecting into our minds so that we basically perceive them as gray aliens. Because you should know, folks, that there are numerous cases of people who are on these UFOs saying that they see Bigfoot, the typical Bigfoot, brown or black furred creatures. But is it possible that maybe the gray aliens are actually these white furred varieties of Bigfoot? They're smaller and perhaps maybe far more intelligent than their brethren. Maybe they're the scientist class of this species, and for whatever reason, they want us to think that the gray aliens are the ones actually in charge, and that the, Bigfoot are perhaps maybe their servants. In reality, maybe they're all members of the same species, perhaps. And when we see Bigfoot on the ground, maybe there's some sort of reconnaissance, soldiers or something doing missions, for all we know. But then again, as I said, folks, this is all with the stuff we just, think about and just imagine. Anyway, we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions of the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Hit the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications. And please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.